it's time to welcome another Gautam of the cricketing world, Mr. Gautam Bhimani.
Delighted to be here in the company of the other Ishant Sharma of the cricketing world. Okay, fine, we'll knock off one T, but so what? Sounds the same.
So how do you manage that switch between, like boom, boom, one vibration mode and, when you're off air, you're a completely different person and you're very chilled, you're more calm.
I'm glad you managed to point that out because a lot of people almost don't accept it. However, if for some reason somebody has a mic in the room and they happen to pass it to me for some reason, then it'll be a completely different transformation.
You were a part of a quiz show in Singapore where you randomly decided to go to the ESPN studios.
That entire quiz was just complete accident, and it sounds like a cliche, looking for a silver lining in a cloud, but usually clouds are the best place to find them.
You also got the Ramnath Goenka Award for Excellence in Journalism by APJ Abdul Kalam.
I managed to spend maybe 4 minutes with him.
Yeah.
But that itself stayed with me for a lifetime.
For the flight from the West Indies, from Barbados, with Sachin Tendulkar next to you, the story of seat number 22B.
So I get my boarding pass, I sit down and I see this familiar gentleman sitting next to me. Fighter planes, cars, food, drink, Caribbean, beaches, growing up, fatherhood, you name it. There were every possible issue under the sun. Because he did whisper at some point in time, we're not discussing cricket, are we?
You were in the same flight after winning the T20 World Cup in South Africa. You were photographed chilling with Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Robin Uthappa, Srishant in that same flight. Was there a feeling in the air that now this is something big, T20 cricket is going to become very big in India?
They had absolutely no idea. If we had beaten Australia in the final or South Africa in the final, I don't think people would have taken any notice of it. It would have just been some tournament that this guy who couldn't afford a barber went and captained India and done and dusted.
So do you think, there could be more revenue generation even with women's cricket, and all these fantasy platforms could be taken advantage of, and, there are just more opportunities in terms of the women's game?
I think that the answer is one big yes. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Shefali Verma, I think, is a great example of someone. I mean, what a story that is. Going as a 10-year-old to watch Sachin's farewell game in Lali, in a part of India which we can all accept is a very, very male-dominated bastion. Very
Maybe somebody like a Priya Punia telling a father to make a cricket ground for herself in her backyard. We'll come to the last segment of our show now. I'll not take much time. The last over. It's a quick rapid fire. One cricket interview, which you will never forget, and it's the most special interview till date.
It would have to be interviewing Sachin Tendulkar on his birthday, in his house, with his son and daughter, giving him an early morning birthday card, cutting a cake with him, and just literally spending that entire morning with him doing a Sachin birthday special.
Anyways, Gautam, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And, you were very kind, and, you were very honest throughout the interview.
Cool. Pleasure. Total pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to welcome another Gautam of the cricketing world, Mr. Gautam Bhimani. Gautam, a very good evening to you.
Delighted to be here in the company of the other Ishant Sharma of the cricketing world. Okay, fine, we'll knock off one T, but so what? Sounds the same.
If I may tell you, Gautam, you use the word another Ishan of the cricketing world. Around 4 years ago, I participated in a contest, ESPN Voice of India. There was a contest for the commentators, and I was interviewed by Mr. Gaurav Kalra. There was Ronak there, and I was in the India top 8. I got very nervous when I reached there because I completely froze. I couldn't face the camera at all. And I get a message from ESPN that there'll be a Swift which will be coming to pick you up, a red Swift. And when I reached there at the Bombay airport, there was a Fortuner. I think it was a Fortuner which came to pick me up, and I was a little confused because the message said Swift, and I got a Fortuner, brand new Fortuner, and I was very, very happy also that okay, this is royalty, but why? I mean, I'm just a contestant. And then the driver got a little upset, and the driver is like, "Sir, आप ईशान शर्मा है ना?" तो मैंने कहा हूँ तो सही. Then I kind of figured that you know what I mean, right? That they were expecting the other Ishan Sharma, and then I didn't know whether to be sad or disappointed. So like I had my face down in front of the driver, like I'm so sorry.
यार मेरा गाड़ी कौन लेके गया यार? मैं बहुत गुस्सा हूँ. मैंने बोला लंबा गाड़ी फॉर्च्यूनर भेजा है, ये कौन लाल स्विफ्ट भेज दिया यार.
Yeah, so actually, and I got a little disappointed for the driver as well, because if I was expecting a cricketer and I would, get somebody else, I'll be like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. And so my first question to you today is, you're this bundle of energy wherever you go. Though Test cricket is personally my favorite format because I'm a die-hard cricket fan, I love Test cricket. But they say you could make it interesting for even people who don't like Test cricket. Like a lot of people these days are switching towards T20 cricket and other options. And on the contrary, many people say you're a regular guy off the field, and suddenly on camera you're this bundle of energy altogether. So how do you manage that switch between like boom boom one vibration mode and when you're off air you're a completely different person and you're very chilled, you're more calm?
Well, it's one of those things I've always been asked, and I wish I had an answer to that. If it was a scientific answer or whatever it is, I really don't know, because I'm glad you managed to point that out, because a lot of people almost don't accept it. So if I go to somebody's house for an evening, for a dinner, for a party, they expect that I'll walk in and I'll be the first one talking and I'll be the last one talking. But it never is the case. I'll be the first one to get a drink, sit in a corner, find one person to talk to, if at all. Otherwise, it's not that I'll be the one in the center. However, if for some reason somebody has a mic in the room and they happen to pass it to me for some reason, then it'll be a completely different transformation.
Yeah. And you also enjoy your own company. I've seen your Instagram stories, your Twitter handle. Recently, you updated Bella Ciao, the money heist. So you seem to enjoy your own company. You can have, you're an introvert, but yet you like to have fun, I see.
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly. That's why going on tours often can be lonely for a lot of people. They tend to stick in groups, particularly a lot of our colleagues from India. Food could be one reason. But when you go to places like the Caribbean, go to Australia, and tours there have been in excess of 90 days, it's important to be able to, spend time with yourself and do things that you like. It doesn't always have to be watching long movies, but it could just be getting to explore yourself and know yourself, not necessarily be reliant on others. Of course, you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Absolutely. So, the good old Bishan Singh Bedi recently tweeted about your father. He was one of the good old fashioned cricket writers who took cricket writings like a player who takes to playing. So while Gautam, you're yourself a self-made man, who's climbed every ladder, and you've done everything yourself. But how much do you think has also come from your genes as far as the communication part is involved? Growing up as a young boy, how much of your father's learnings, probably did you figure out maybe during dinner table conversations, or just growing up? I mean, did you do you think that helped grow your personality to what it is right now?
100%. I mean, it's not just a matter of saying at a time like this that, okay, I owe everything to him, but it's always something I've said all along. And it's not necessarily, it needn't necessarily be a specific learning. It could just be the injection of the love of the game, which started when I was 5 years old. I mean, not too many kids at the age of 5 or 6 in any generation, forget now, a generation where the attention span is so low. But in any generation, 5-6-year-olds sitting through a test match for 5 days is hard to fathom. I mean, I would do that. I would have lots of friends who I played cricket with in the backyard. But if I told them that, listen, there's a test match coming up, India, West Indies, I'm off to watch it. My dad said, you guys want to come along? I can take some friends. They'd be like, no, we'll play cricket when you come back in the evening. We're not going with you. So that was fine. I was more than happy to go absolutely on my own. Mom came along. That was great. She loved the game as well. But if she couldn't, if she had work, then I would be more than happy to sit in the stands for 5 days at the Eden Gardens, soaking in Test cricket with scorebook in hand, ticking off every ball, and just enjoying the game. And that's what you came to appreciate, meeting some of these cricketers as a youngster. Bishan Bedi being one of them, the likes of Sunil Gavaskar, Imran Khan, Zahir Abbas, all these guys were just like basically uncle. You didn't think of them as superstars. But then what did happen as a result was the love of the game. And at no stage, whether I was 5 years old, 10, 15, 20, at no stage did I think that's what I want to do when I grow up. Never. It was just enjoying the game. People want to, sons of pilots want to be pilots, sons of painters want to be artists, etc., etc. But it's not at that stage. If you ask me, do you want to become a cricket journalist or a writer or a radio commentator or a TV commentator? I'm like, nah. Even though I used to do lots of it myself. I used to go to the backyard.
Yeah.
I would have a little tape recorder, play cricket with myself because I was an only child. Friends didn't always come over. So I would literally throw the ball to the wall, play an entire test match with tea breaks, lunch breaks, everything, scorebook, and a little tape recorder where I would do commentary in between. And not because I thought, look, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up, but just because that's what I enjoyed.
The game. I mean, you had fun throughout. So my next question to you, Gautam, is, I'm sure you've spoken about this in many interviews before, but this time for the Crack family, my friend, if possible, you were a part of a quiz show in Singapore where you randomly decided to go to the ESPN studios, and they happened to like you, and boom, in no time you were working with the great Harsha Bogle. So how was that experience? And then your debut during the Zimbabwe tour happened. So how was that experience? Going to Singapore, walking into the ESPN studios, and suddenly, you're with the great Harsha Bogle, somebody who I personally have grown up watching. When he talks, it's like poetry, right? So how was that experience? And did that help you get a kickstart?
Certainly did. Be careful when you say grow up watching him. He hates being aged any more than he is. He's young and evergreen. And every time any of us remind him, yeah, we saw you doing this or we heard you doing this in the 80s, he'd be like, but that was not me. That was not me.
But his son is also quite grown up now, right?
Yeah.
Is also
absolutely.
Quite
yeah. Both the sons. But yeah, so neither him nor me like getting reminded of our age, but that's okay. It's fun to just be part of the game across different eras. Like you said, when that 96 World Cup, for me, it was, in a sense, my first job. ESPN hadn't happened yet. I was working in advertising, but working on that 96 World Cup because our main client was Wills, and it was the Wills World Cup. And again, that time I had no idea I'd be working in cricket all my life, but I was getting my first taste of it. Because I was so much into cricket, they hired me just to say that, listen, we've got ads to do, this to do, that to do, it's all to do with cricket. Why don't you handle the whole thing for a year and a half? So that way I had a different connect to that 96 World Cup from the creation of the logo to everything. But yeah, that entire quiz was just complete accident. And it's a lesson to everybody who I tell out there that you always, it sounds like a cliche, looking for a silver lining in a cloud, but usually clouds are the best place to find them. And for me, the biggest cloud was not winning that particular quiz. Had I won that quiz in 99-2000, the brand equity quiz, I would have won myself a CLO car, which no sour grapes. It was not the best vehicle in the world. It was a gas guzzler, not perfect for Bombay roads. I was in Calcutta then. But because I lost out on that car, I won a trip to Singapore, having come third All India in that quiz. So initially for about a few months, it was like, oh, look at that car. That could have been me. That could have been me. But then I said, okay, fine. Let me go and enjoy the trip to Singapore. And when I went there, I said, what can I do that's different from every other trip? Shopping on Orchard Road. Yeah, done it. Jurong Bird Park. Done it. What more can I do? There was no Grand Prix in those days. So I said, the next best thing for a cricket lover is I've heard that ESPN Star are headquartered there. So let me go and just walk in the middle of the night and see what it's about, because Harsha was hosting a show there. I knew him through my dad, and I just gave him a call out of the blue saying, will you take me around? He was more than delighted. He said, unfortunately, I can't host you. All I can do is take you there because I'll be hosting a show myself, and then you're on your own. And just being on my own, bumped into a few people, said the right things, and next thing I knew, I was looking at failure and turning it into success. I still didn't know, but while I was sitting there, that I would be offered the job. He said, interesting, you seem to know a lot of cricket. We'll get back to you. Now, those can be often famous last words.
Fair enough.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. 3 days later at 6 o'clock in the morning, because the one thing this gentleman from Australia was not very good at was realizing that they were actually ahead of India by 2.5 hours. So for him, bright and early, 8:30 in the morning, decides to call me at 6 a.m. for me I pick up the phone, and it's him. G'day, mate. Ray Hume. And I'm like, yeah, I heard that before. And straight off at 6 a.m, he was telling me that we'd like to offer you a job. And of course, that time I assumed the job would be in Singapore. I love Singapore. I was super excited. Then he said, no, it's actually in Delhi, because we are actually starting operations in India. Because if you cater to an Indian audience, how could you be sitting in some other part of the world? So he himself moved to India. His wife bought a pink ambassador.
Wow.
She was one of those who wanted to just become part of the entire culture.
That's an interesting story. Yeah.
Oh, it was anyone you ask in Delhi in those days. Oh, there's the pink ambassador going past. It was brilliant. And Ray wanted to actually buy a pink auto at some point in time. It didn't happen, thankfully. So he stuck to his safari. But yeah, so that was it. I was in Delhi, and that's where I am 20 years later. But it was just, sometimes things happen by chance. And then, as you mentioned, Zimbabwe was also, in a sense, by chance, because they wanted an Indian face.
But then you also took your chances. I mean, sometimes things do happen by chance, but then you also have to take your chances, right? They say fortune favors the brave. You took your chance, and there you are. So well done on that, Gautam. Well done on that. My next question to you is, they say you got a different, as I said, in the starting of my interview as well, that you've always got a different approach towards cricket. Due to the fact that you added a lot of value to the game, you also got the Ramnath Goenka Award for Excellence in Journalism by APJ Abdul Kalam, by the former President of India. So how was that? I mean, did you get a chance to interact with him? Any wise words which you remember? They said Abdul Kalam, his entire aura, you could probably, get absorbed in it. So how was that? How was the experience?
Well, I can tell you it was an aura that I managed to spend maybe 4 minutes with him. But that itself stayed with me for a lifetime. And again, it was not because he was the president of the country. It was because he was APJ Abdul Kalam. And I was so glad, with all due respect to all other leaders, that incidentally was his last assignment as President of India. He then handed over, and I was so glad that I got it just in time from him. I was in England at the time. I was covering a game in Chelmsford, England A versus India. That was the first time cricket was on Star in 2007. Star Cricket had just been launched. And even before a ball of Test cricket was bowled, we had 2 Test games in a sense. One at Hove, Sussex versus India, where Sachin got 100. And the other was at Chelmsford, where Graham Gooch was launched into the world of commentary. I mean, everyone knew him as this great player, but nobody really knew if he could do commentary or not. So because it was his home ground, Chelmsford is Graham Gooch, they said, Goochie, let's get you into the comm box. And of course, I had the pleasure of 5 sessions with him. And it was delightful. It was like, why have you not done commentary all this time? He just had a completely new insight into this game. So one particular session finished with Gucci, end of day 2, I get this call from this random person. Hi, I'm calling from Indian Express. This is just to tell you that you've been awarded this particular award, and you'll be getting it from the President of India in 2 days' time. So are you okay if we send you a car to your house? Can you give us your address? I'm like, my address is at the moment so-and-so hotel in Chelmsford, Essex in England. I don't think your cab will reach me here. And I'm thinking, never mind, I'll call you back. And of course, I called the family, told them about it. And next thing I start thinking is, what do I do? Lord's Test is starting in 7 days' time. So straight from Chelmsford, we were all driving back to London. Setup starts 3 days before. Spoke to my boss. I said, listen, I have to go. And of course, I just bought my own ticket. Flew down straight after the last ball of that Essex game. And flew back literally for less than 24 hours. Landed, showered, went to the award ceremony, slept somehow, got up next morning, flew back to England for the Lord's Test. So it was actually appropriate that it should happen in such dramatic style, because the whole ethos of the award was, all the other people getting the awards along with me were people who had been to the front line in war reporting and things like that. Now, I could never lay claim to that, but what they told me was it was for looking at cricket in a different way and being brave enough to cover it in a way that no one else had dared to cover before. So that was the reason why I was put on that same platform. And that's what the few words that Shri Abdul Kalam whispered to me at that point in time was just that. He said, I know your award is a little different from some of the others, and sport doesn't necessarily put you facing a real bullet, but it still means you can be brave enough to do something different with whatever you do in life, and let that be a life lesson. That's all he said. Few words.
And I'm sure that might be very, very, very motivating, right?
Yep.
And very encouraging, absolutely. And well deserved. And it was definitely worth it. All the traveling and the adrenaline rush, I'm sure, it might be worth. So Gautam, my next question to you is, as far as, so just a curious question here, since the last couple of years, digital media has really evolved. You've been doing a lot of shows with Cric, with Dream 11, not to take names here, but you have been doing a lot of shows with digital media as compared to a lot of shows which you did with TV back in the days. So my question to you is, how different is it in terms of presentation, in terms of style? Do you have to do something different with your preparations, with your execution? How does that work for you?
Well, to be honest, yes and no. In terms of just the love of the game and the passion with which you sort of immerse yourself into the game, it's exactly the same. Yes, the difference is you'd probably be doing a lot more from studio, because that's the nature of it right now. And of course, in lockdown, it was not just studio, it was home, just like where I'm sitting right now. This is my home studio. But otherwise, it's essentially, from a cricket perspective, it's the same. In fact, the digital media gives you the freedom to have more free-flowing conversations, which is why a lot of people actually tune in, even though there's no footage involved. When you're not with the host broadcaster, you're not, if you're talking about Labuschane's batting, you won't necessarily get to see those 3-4s. But people are okay with that. People are okay with that because they've watched it enough. They don't want to watch it again for the 900th time. So they find that when we watch the live cricket, we are seeing cricket action. When we're listening to conversation, we're listening to pure conversation. There are no agendas involved. You're not pandering to anyone. You're not saying the right thing for any particular person. You're all saying it as it is. You're having a bit of a laugh, and that's how cricket conversations are. Yes, the difference in being indoors versus outdoors, for me, if I was given a choice, I'd much rather present from outdoors anytime. But I'd take a conversation any day. If you ask me straight off 50-50, would I like to sit in that studio with the conversation or be outdoors at the venue? I would always take the latter, but no regrets. That will come whenever it comes. And I still get a chance to do that. Caribbean Premier League, other leagues around the world are not just for those players whose careers are prolonged, but for me, even if I'm not full-time with Test cricket at the moment, I'm definitely full-time with all those leagues, which can be great fun to cover.
Absolutely. And I also feel, with these conversations and what you said, with no videos or a lot of images, going through at the backdrop, it also probably, I feel, separates the cream from the rest, because if you're talking and if you don't have a lot of visuals alongside, you have to be bloody brilliant with your game is what I believe, just my take on digital media and TV. And, it's been an absolute pleasure to listen to you as well over all these years, be it on Dream 11, Cric, and all these other digital platforms as well. But of course, you standing, on a beach with Chris Gayle is also equally fun, and we miss that, especially during the lockdown where, we haven't seen these visuals a lot. We would like those to come back as well. So my next question to you is, you seem to have mastered it all, Gautam, over all these years with your book launch. I've read your book as well, and with all these shows, with the traveling all around. Having said that, I remember you quoting once, there was a time when somebody told you to look in the mirror and the fact that you're not fit enough to become a cricket presenter. And guess what? You did look in the mirror and here you are, So how did you deal with the criticism? Because I believe that that's what you quoted, that I did look in the mirror and I thought that, I could do it. I can't relate. I can't remember the exact statement, but it was something like that. So how did you deal with the criticism at that time, especially, with you probably not going the conventional route? As far as your attire is concerned, I personally like it, but then of course it is different from the rest, right? So how did you probably figure all that out?
Well, actually, the words that you mentioned, it was harsher than that. The words I was told was not fit enough to be a cricket presenter, not fit enough to be on television, period. is what I was told. And I was like, okay, if you think so, I've already done a few years of it. And I was given the example by this same individual of a certain lady who was on CNBC, just randomly put on the TV and said, look, there's, and I'm happy to take names, Shireen Bhan, excellent presenter, very good business presenter, in a completely different space. And you're saying, look, if you put on the TV, would you rather watch Shireen Bhan or yourself? I'm like, well, if I'm watching a business telecast, I'd watch her anytime. If I wanted to watch a cricket show from on field, I wouldn't mind watching myself. Thank you very much. I'm okay. So that's, and sometimes, like going back to the failure of the quiz, criticism is something you should take. Not because all criticism will necessarily be wrong, but it's good. If someone feels that way,
you're always criticized because you're good enough, right? So
yeah, and it needn't necessarily all be untrue. Yes, this may have been a little over the top and a little too extreme in saying not fit enough at all. But as you said, it's something that's saying that maybe unorthodox dressing, slightly different style. You don't have to have the perfect chocolate boy looks or that perfect well-dressed girl to be presenting something on TV. It's about the content you present. It's about what you say, how you say it, when you say it, the disciplines you have, what else you're bringing, the ability to say the right word at the right time. All those things contribute. So people are entitled to their opinion, and sometimes an odd, harsh word maybe spurs you on even more. Well, thank you so much for saying that. Now I'll go and do even more of it to, not to prove a point, but just to show that I can do it, not just because I have to do it, because I know there are people out there who appreciate it. Because when I first started on television, the first time I came on television, the only thing I told myself is, I've sat on that couch watching TV for years. What would I like to watch? What would I like to see in me? And that is what I would do. I mean, I would just imagine that I'm walking into somebody's living room, because TV and even now digital can be a very intimate environment.
Absolutely.
Unlike cinema. Cinema is different. You're in a big screen, you're getting 20 takes to do it. You're very distant from your audience. You're not talking to each and every person individually. You're a star, great. But in television, if I'm looking into that camera, which I am looking into right now and talking to you, I'm right now seeing only you. I'm only seeing Ishan. But I know there are many other people out there who are watching, and I'm talking to each one of them, sitting next to them in their respective living rooms, cars, wherever they are. So I need to be able to talk to them and not talk down at them. And just small things like that, when I remembered, I said, okay, I can just be that friend, as people often used to say about Harsha, he's a friendly uncle who would come and talk to you. He again, by the way, hated that. But it was true. It was true in a sense. He was not that expert saying that, listen, I know that Sunil Gavaskar scored 10,122 runs. You don't. You never want to give that impression.
Yeah.
You want to say that, listen, Gavaskar made 10-1-1. How much was it? Oh, it was 10-1-2-2. Yeah. I mean, the statistician fed me that. Even though you might know it yourself, it's okay to say that, look, I didn't remember it. Somebody gave it to me. So good to have a statsman alongside. But I'm sure all of you know it as well. But this is the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, because I'm privileged to be where I am, and I'm enjoying every bit of it, bringing it to you.
Fair enough. And I'm sure, this is a great lesson for all the youngsters as well. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. You're criticized because you're good enough. If you take it positively, if you take it in the right stride, you could, make a life out of it. But, you have to keep moving on in life. Moving on, Gautam, another story here, the flight from the West Indies, from Barbados, with Sachin Tendulkar next to you, the story of seat number 22B. If you could maybe quickly throw some light on that, please.
You're never sure of what seat you're going to get. So get in there, get your boarding passes, and they're all distributed randomly. All economy class. And so I get my boarding pass, I sit down, and I see this familiar gentleman sitting next to me. And I expected for all the world that he'll say, oh, can we just change our seat because I want to sit next to one of my boys or teammates. Why not? Why shouldn't they sit together?
Yeah.
I asked him, I'm the first one who offered. I said, do you want to swap seats? He said, no.
Wow.
And I see them all the time.
You had a very big heart to say that, but that's
I mean, I didn't want to say it, but I still offered, because rather than having him saying it, I still offered. And he said, no, I'm fine. And I said, it's a long flight. He said, I see these guys often enough. It's okay. There's nothing more. I want to stay away from them for a while. So it was fine. And then again, like Captain Maharaj spoke cricket when he should be talking aviation, we talked no cricket for those next few hours.
You spoke
It
about
was not-
cars, aviation?
Yeah, fighter planes, cars, food, drink, Caribbean, beaches, growing up, fatherhood, you name it.
Wonderful.
There were every possible issue under the sun, because he did whisper at some point in time, "We're not discussing cricket, are we?" I said, no, you think I look, because he was half expecting anyone from the world of journalism for anything close to it. All they'll be doing is, yeah, so tell us about that first test match, tell us about this, how do you do
Right.
that, what is the technique that you employ against fast bowlers, which is your favorite bowler, who's the bowler you hate most? No, we've heard enough of that. He did not want to talk about that, and which is why he was more than happy. He didn't put on his headphones and tune himself out.
Yeah.
At one point he did, because he just said, okay, I'm going to want to listen to a few songs. I said, go ahead. Dire Straits was on, and he switched it on.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that was-
Interesting. So my next question to you is, you were in the same flight after winning the T20 World Cup in South Africa. You were photographed chilling with Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Robin Uthappa, Srishant in that same flight. Winning the first ever World Cup, and before that, I believe India played just one T20 game against South Africa. Nobody expected them to win the World Cup. Dhoni, a new captain, a lot of youngsters in the team. So, how was the feeling back, on the flight? Did they actually believe that, they won something really big, considering it was the first T20 World Cup, with so many things followed? I mean, later the IPL followed, I believe, because we won the World Cup. The IPL happened, but, was there a feeling in the air that now this is something big, T20 cricket is going to become very big in India?
they had absolutely no idea. They had zero idea. That was the whole beauty of that flight, because obviously we experienced that moment at the Wanderers on that day. I had covered the entire tournament, but on that particular day I was not working, so I was enjoying it over a few interesting beverages. So it was an even more interesting experience. Strange one though, because after 7 years, that was the first big match I was attending as a spectator, in a sense. Obviously I had my accred and everything because I was part of the Cape Town crew. But I said, okay, final of a World Cup, whatever the strange format is, let's also go and watch it. It should be fun. One big party. I love the Wanderers, one of my top 5 grounds in the world, purely for atmosphere, not necessarily aesthetic beauty. But so I said, yeah, it's a good place to be. And obviously your accred gets you everywhere. So misused it, walked around everywhere. But when that final catch was taken, obviously none of us realized. We just realized it was another victory over Pakistan. That's all that mattered. Honestly, if we had beaten Australia in the final or South Africa in the final, I don't think people would have taken any notice of it. It would have just been some tournament that this guy who couldn't afford a barber went and captained India and done and dusted. But the only reason people stood up and took a little notice is because it was Pakistan. You play Pakistan in marbles, 2 people play each other, it'll become an event. So it essentially was an India-Pakistan game that India won.
So
narrowly.
do you think if it wasn't an India-Pakistan final, maybe IPL would have started in 2010, 2011, maybe?
Very possible.
Later?
Also, had that catch not been taken, and that really, Pakistan, I think, won 70% of that game, to be honest.
Yeah.
So had they gone on to win that game, and had Srishant maybe not taken that catch, Misbah should have finished it off. I think still the IPL may not have started that quickly, because that led to the wheels being set in motion really quickly. And on that flight, as I said, nobody realized anything. They were all chilling. When we got off at Dubai airport, Srishant was trying on these Elvis sideburns, having a bit of a blast. Rohit was being his usual shy self. MS was keeping to himself, reading these headlines everywhere and going, oh, okay, it's a big win, huh? And nobody really fathomed anything until that parade that happened in Mumbai. So Johannesburg to Dubai to Bombay.
This was also like his usual self, like completely chilled, like, not really, didn't really rise to the occasion at that time, didn't really figure out how big the occasion was.
Not at all. In fact, he was because he was captain, he was put in first class, which is a little bit fancier than business class, because you have your own little cabinet, not quite the door shutting on you as you do nowadays with a cabin. But it was still an isolated place. I went and spent a few minutes, chatted with him. He was reading the Khalij Times, and he said, "Dekho, front page mein aa gaya." So I was like, yeah. So front page of the paper, not the sports page, front page of the paper, India conquer the world.
Wonderful.
And they said, yeah, maybe it is a bit of a big deal, but honestly, till they walked out at Chhatrapati Shivaji and had that ticker tape parade with I don't know how many lakh people on the streets of Mumbai, nobody realized it. Then they said, okay, this is a big deal. Then the next thing that happened that winter in Australia, in Adelaide, at the Hyatt in Adelaide, I was walking around the hotel and I saw all these guys in suits who didn't look like anything to do with the cricket world, but they were all interacting with individual cricketers. And it looked something straight out of a spy movie. They all had sunglasses on. It's a very dimly lit lobby at the Hyatt in Adelaide. Yet they all had sunglasses on. I don't know how they saw through that. Black suits. And they were all walking around. I finally asked, who are these people? And then I was told they're signing contracts with Indian team members in Australia for what was apparently going to be some tournament starting in April 2008, in 3 months' time.
Wow.
They're calling it the Premier League of India or something like that. We don't know what it is. But these guys are all signing contracts. Firu and all these guys who were part of the Indian ODI setup were signing these huge contracts. And that's the first time we heard that something big was happening. So all these management types were jumping on. And before India, the Indian team actually landed in India in February after winning that CB series. They had already signed all their contracts. Everything was in place. IPL was already in place in a sense.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's good to know. Thank you for that insight, Gautam. Last couple of questions before we play a quick rapid fire. So my second last question to you before the rapid fire today is, I'd love to know your thoughts about the growth and development of women's cricket in India. In fact, I was going to say overall, but I would like to focus more on India because I believe 2020 took one step further and then two steps behind is the way I put it, And so do you think like the emergence of a women's IPL is on the cards? A lot of voices are coming across, Mithali Raj, a lot of women cricketers want to see that. So do you think it's high time? I mean, there was a pilot which happened recently as well, which got a lot of traction, and especially these days with the emergence of so many fantasy cricket players, Dream 11, My 11, Circle, you know it all. You yourself, give out a lot of big bash teams. So, so do you think, there could be more revenue generation even with women's cricket, and all these fantasy platforms could be taken advantage of, and there are just more opportunities in terms of the women's game?
I think the answer is one big yes. There is absolutely no doubt about it. The sooner the women's IPL happens, the better. I mean, the fact that they have a big bash already, the WBBL, is in itself a good place to do a test run. So that in itself, I think the very fact that it succeeded and you had the likes of Harman going and playing over there means that you're rubbing shoulders with the best. A few years ago, even though we had some great players and I've made some good friends over, someone like an Anjum who's now in the commentary box, but she still belonged to that transition era when women just played just to turn up, because we can also play. That was the whole big thing was, of course it's a men's game, but we also play. So right from a Shanta Rangaswamy to a Diana Adalji to later on someone like Anjum Chopra, none of them were athletes. Anjum was a great, very elegant left-handed bat. She captained India, but she didn't belong to an era when that was it. I mean, her day job was still Air India. She didn't exactly go out there and do that for a living. But things have changed. The girls nowadays are not just turning up to say we also play cricket. They are turning up to say we play cricket and we are athletes. That's the big thing. The fitness in their game, the fact that they've got stronger. I was on with Lisa Stalekar on one of our shows just yesterday. And the biggest thing she was talking about was when they started wearing helmets, is because they realize that their own colleagues, their own counterparts, the girls are becoming stronger. And therefore, if they can start wearing helmets, they know that they're getting slowly on par with the men's game. Different sports have it in different ways. I mean, in a sport like tennis, you actually play mixed doubles. In other sports like table tennis, you also have that. But you cannot really compare it, and you can have feminists jumping down your throat saying that you can't say it in such a way. But people accept generally that the male body and the female body react differently. So you can't compare every sport like for like. But interestingly, if you look at distance running, right? Biologically and medically, they have proven that the longer you run, the closer the gap between the men and women is reduced. So in a 100-meter race, people have accepted a man will always be the fastest man on earth. There is no way. I mean, maybe one day things will change, but as biology stands in 2021, the fastest man on earth will still be that much quicker than the fastest woman on earth. But when it comes to 5,000, 10,000, half marathon, full marathon, ultra marathon, the women, the gaps are coming closer and closer. And there is, in fact, in the ultra marathon, there is actually a woman who holds the record across genders.
Oh, wonderful. That's very educating. Thank you. Because I never knew this fact, and it makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying biologically. So let's hope,
So coming back to cricket again, I think that's simply they're becoming athletes, becoming stronger, appreciating the game more. And you can see Shefali Verma, I think, is a great example of someone. I mean, what a story that is. Going as a 10-year-old to watch Sachin's farewell game in Lali, in a part of India which we can all accept is a very, very male-dominated bastion in the middle of Haryana.
Absolutely.
Here's this little kid.
Difficult pitches as well, right?
Oh yeah, difficult pitch, difficult place. It's not exactly where you expect a bunch of 10 girls to come and say, listen, what do we do on a day off? Chalo, let's go and watch this cricket match. No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
But she decides to go among all the boys, watch this, and 10 years later or less than that, she breaks Sachin's record. The guy she went to watch as a 10-year-old, so not 10 years later, 5 years later, as a 15-year-old, she breaks the world record held by the same Sachin Tendulkar, whose farewell match she goes to watch in Lali. So, I mean, stories like Shefali, Mithali also is on the cusp of it, still carrying 50 over cricket till the next World Cup. She's very keen on.
Somebody like a Priya Punia telling a father to make a cricket ground for herself in her backyard. So there's dedication, and women have now also, more women have started believing that they want to play for the team and they could play for the team, which is
and they're also starting to do their own chat shows. You've got Jemima, Jemima and Smriti. I mean, they've become, they're, I think, one step ahead of the guys. Can you imagine 2 young Indian players in the men's side actually having their own chat show at the age of 19, 20? No way. These two have had the guts to do that, to come out and say, okay, double trouble with Jemima and Smriti. I think it's brilliant. And that will augur well for them. And they are the ones who can, give the New Zealands, the Australias and the Englands, who were really the superpowers of women's cricket maybe 3-4 years ago. Not anymore.
Absolutely. Well said. Let's wish them luck.
And what about a girl from Thailand? I mean, you talk about the women's game having spread. To just finish the point off.
Yeah.
A young girl from Thailand as being part of that same pilot that you mentioned.
Right.
Playing in Dubai with all these other girls who are the superstars of world cricket, and making a name for herself without batting, without bowling. She managed to, one dive she did was enough to show that how the game is spread to Nepal, to Thailand, to Bangladesh.
Bangladesh women
Bangladesh is more a patriarchal society, but I've met all these Bangladeshi women cricketers. They're again completely on par with the men. The board recognizes them, and they're playing some good cricket. I mean, it's not just 1 or 2 anymore. It's the entire team. Jahanara Alam as a fast bowler and almost a fashion icon. Who would have thought that in Bangladesh you'd have a female fashion icon who also plays cricket for the national team and is a fast bowler?
Absolutely. Gautam, this wasn't a part of the questionnaire, but since you spoke about Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Thailand, suddenly if I could add on. My question to you is, beat men's or women, right? Are you in favor of a 10-team World Cup, or do you want to break it down between ODI and T20? In fact, I asked your friend Sean Tate the same question, and he had a suggestion that the ODI World Cup may be restricted to 10 teams to ensure quality, and T20 probably stretch it to 14, 15. So what's your take on it as far as globalization of the sport is concerned?
I think I spot on. I agree with Sean Tate right there. The longer the format, the more exclusive you want it to be. In fact, you started today by talking about Test cricket being the ultimate form of the game. I fully endorse that. There are times when I even jokingly say that I don't even consider T20 as cricket. I just consider it as a great evening's entertainment. Whereas Test cricket is a very different kind of way.
You still do? Do you still?
Yeah, I still do. It's my bread and butter, T20 cricket. But as in terms of purity of the sport, Test cricket is still Test cricket over 5 days, things changing session by session, teams being able to come back the next day. This is good, hardcore, full-on entertainment meant for the modern era. 3.5 hours, done and dusted. But yeah, there's a different kind of ethos to real cricket in that sense. But yeah, the shorter the format, the more it should spread.
Fair
In
enough.
fact, there are a lot of people who said T10 might even be the format that can spread the game even further. Well, whether it's T10 or T20, I think, yeah, T20 World Cup should definitely have many more teams, because in the shorter format, a team like Germany, Thailand, China, Japan, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Western
Even
Samoa.
USA is also coming up, right? I mean,
USA is a little bigger country than all these.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, and USA, to be fair, is more about expats than anything else.
Yeah, that's
But in that sense, they face as big a challenge. They're now planning on their own T20 league, which should be coming up soon. I've spent a lot of time with USA Cricket and the heads of it, so hopefully I'll be a part of that as well. But
Wonderful.
in a big country like that, it's a huge challenge. I mean, what a lovely story it is for the guy who's the current US captain. I mean, I met him a few years ago.
Yeah.
T20 World Cup, the highest wicket taker for India was not Jaydev Unadkat, who we all remember, who's now part of the IPL. It was a young man called Saurabh Netravalkar. Left arm quick, best bowler on the tournament for India. What happens next? Doesn't really get a chance in the IPL. Obviously, he's looking at playing for India. No chance to play for India. He gets disgruntled and says, okay, I've got a bit of a brain in my head, so let me, and not all fast bowlers lay claim to that.
Yeah.
Dante, it's going to kill me for this. But I'm packing my bags. Where am I going? To Cornell. No less than Cornell, Ivy League University, to do a master's in computer science. I mean, talk about a geek or a nerd. So that's what Saurabh did. Lands up over there. Says, forget cricket. This is not for me. I mean, here I am. I shine in a World Cup, but I don't get an opportunity in the IPL or for the national team. And by chance, one of the games that he's playing, some game he's playing just for a lark.
Yeah.
Because he's given up the game as such. He's playing because some friends of him says, why don't you go and play? Sitting at the bar over there is a guy called Pubudu Dasanaike.
Okay.
Over a beer, he sees this guy playing. He's pretty quick. Happens to be the coach of the US national team.
Wow.
Former Sri Lanka cricketer. And Pubudu calls him and says, you bowl really fast. So he says, yeah, I used to play for India. Come see me. Good Sri Lankan hospitality, gets him a meal, and next thing he's playing for the USA. 12 months later, he's captain of the US national team.
Wonderful.
So
That's an interesting story. Yeah.
and of course, he does get a chance to play in the Canadian League. He plays in the Caribbean Premier League for
Correct.
the Guyana Amazon Warriors. But again, it's a resurrection of a career from absolutely nowhere. But it just shows that the game is alive and well in different parts of the world. But shorter the format, the more you spread it. ODI World Cup, I think, should still definitely be 10 teams and no more. You can have a qualification process with 20 other teams, but the final tournament should be the best of the best.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you for your opinion on this. So my last question to you before the last over, will not take much time. So the last question is that, as far as India is concerned, and this is for all the youngsters watching as well, if somebody wants to become a Gautam Bhimani or a Harsha Bhogle, right? There is no course per se. I mean, there is no video on YouTube or a course which I could get enrolled into, where where we could just probably figure out these skills. And I mean, see, there are courses on communication, there are courses like mass comm which you yourself have done. But but if somebody wants to do something like this, and if you're not a cricketer, but if you believe that you can talk, you're educated about the game, you read about the game, what route should that particular person take as far as sitting where you're sitting at the moment, if you know what I mean.
But I think the biggest message from that, and it's interesting you should mention that, because I am going to be doing, we've already started a few commentary courses with a friend of mine in the Caribbean, the top director in the world, a guy called Gavin Scovell. He directed the World Cup final, the iconic World Cup final of 2019 at Lord's.
Wow.
So he also directs all the matches in the CPL. So he and I sat together, and along with Danny Morrison, we've joined this group from Singapore, and we're doing commentary training for anyone who wants to just get on board and do that.
Wonderful. When does it start?
It's on.
Okay, is it online?
It's online. Just get on board, and we're at the moment, because of the lockdown,
Yeah.
it's all online. You can pick a 2-day course or a 3-day course, a 4-day course. So there's Danny Morrison, myself, Gavin Scovell. So you get a perspective from a holistic perspective of television. And it's not, by the way, it's not just for somebody who's never been in this profession before or is trying that. There is one level for that. But by the time you get to level 3, we had Andy Flower, Carlos Brathwaite as our 2 students during the CPL, both of whom have been there, done that. I mean, Andy Flower is a legend.
Yeah,
but he wanted to just refine his skills and get the few disciplines that you need to be in the commentary box. And no egos. He shared his egos. I mean, here we are talking to Andy Flower and saying, no, Andy, sorry, that was absolute crap. Can you do that again? And he's the guy he's been a coach of England, apart from being captain of Zimbabwe and such a legend himself. But that's it. He's moving into a different sphere. No egos. First thing that all these guys shared, which is a great thing to do. Someone like a Wasim Akram, when he got into commentary, he wanted to learn. He's taken all those wickets, but he knows that picking up a mic is not the same as bowling reverse swing. And he was willing to accept that. So that is the beauty of having these guys and rubbing shoulders for some of us who haven't played the game, but we're sitting in that same commentary box because we come from a broadcast background. They come from a cricketing background.
Correct.
But again, coming back to your original question, there is no rule about where you would learn from. There are the commentary courses like the one I'm doing. I'm also starting something at college level, based here in Calcutta, for people in communication, commentary, anchoring, etc. Nothing formal, but I think the real lesson is to just look at any aspect of a sport you want to be involved with. You might think that, okay, I want to become a commentator. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
But can I be part of maybe you're a fitness freak, maybe you go to the gym every day. Maybe you can end up being the Indian team physio or trainer a few years later because you couldn't make it as a commentator. You could be a statistician. I mean, Mohandas Menon, who's India's #1 statistician, he used to do it as a hobby. Literally used to do it as a hobby. He used to be this complete nutcase sitting, writing for reams and reams and reams and reams. And until somebody told him one day that, listen, you can do this professionally. And he's taken it to another level. Got his own software, got all that. So you can have so many entry points into the world of cricket, management, player management. So wherever you are from, if you want to be in a team dressing room or you want to be part of cricket, it does not necessarily have to be from anchoring or commentary. You could do it in many ways. So, and again, none of it necessarily needs formal training. If you have the love for it.
That's wonderful to know, that's wonderful to know because, what you're saying, I personally believe that there's a gap in terms of, people understanding where to enter and people like you, should bridge that gap. And I'm glad that you are, doing your efforts to bridge that gap because, people when they grow up and mostly everybody wants to become a cricketer in India. But what if you can't become a cricketer because only 11 people play at the end of the day in a team?
Exactly.
So there are so many other jobs which people don't know about. They go to Australia, they do sports management and they start working with Wimbledon. That's what happens usually. So I'm glad that, you guys are spreading this awareness because there are a lot of people who like to face the camera, who like cricket, with different aspects of it. So yeah, thank you so much. And, this will be educating for all our fans as well, who are listening, to what you said. So thank you. And Gautam, we'll come to the last segment of our show now. I'll not take much time. The last over.
The last over.
It's a quick rapid fire, 6 questions, and you can't take much time. That's the rule. So think from your heart, not from your mind. Think from your heart if you can. Predict the winner of the 2021 World T20. I know it's very far, but it's also not very far if you look at the number of games every team will play leading up to the World Cup. So 2021 World Cup winner based on current form in India, home conditions, India, England, Australia, or are you giving me a dark horse?
No dark horse. I'm going with India.
Okay, you're going with India. Fair enough. Okay, question number 2. Tell us one random fact about yourself, which many people don't know. Give us a Cric Crack special if you can. Something which you haven't shared. I'm not saying anything personal, but just something random which you probably haven't said in any interview so far.
Now that is something I would need to take time over because.
Okay, we can skip this. Get to question number 3, and you can start thinking at the back end. Okay, so one cricketer, one cricket interview. I beg your pardon. One cricket interview which you will never forget, and it's the most special interview till date for you?
It would have to be interviewing Sachin Tendulkar on his birthday, in his house, with his son and daughter, giving him an early morning birthday card, cutting a cake with him, and just literally spending that entire morning with him doing a Sachin birthday special at his house.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's beautiful. Question number 4. Who's your favorite cricket analyst of all time? I know you have a lot of friends in the industry. I don't mean to create any barriers. You can skip, but if you can answer, I mean, favorite. There has to be one favorite who you probably look up to, or you learn a lot from, or you have fun with.
I think yeah. It would be relatively easy for me to say that, because I would classify all the different colleagues I have in the commentary box in different ways. They're fun in different ways as people who come across on the broadcast. But overall, I'd have to go with Ian Bishop. Purely from kind of discipline that he brings, the learnings that he brings, and as a player, not that I'm not saying others don't do it, but as someone who's a top player and a professional, he does much more homework and much more hard work than any of us do, even though he's been there and done that.
Fair enough. That's a good insight. Thank you for being honest about it. And question number 5, if you could teach one subject in school, since you're an introvert, I especially created this one for you. If you could teach any one subject in school, what subject would it be?
Without a doubt, geography.
Geography? Okay, because like why? Is it because you travel a lot and you would like?
Yeah, well, it was my favorite subject in school. Because I wanted to learn about the world, and I think there are so many ways you can teach geography and make it more fun. Obviously we have more tools nowadays, but I'd love to get into a classroom there with some really nice snazzy videos, not necessarily ones I've starred in, but just some really nice Nat Geo Discovery type videos that look really nice, and try and take people to another place without actually going there. And there's so many facts that we've learned over the years when we've traveled, which I wished I could have learned even more of, which you can't really learn from a textbook.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Last question. Who, according to you, at the moment, hot favorites to win the ICC Test Championship?
I think India have a very, very good chance. I mean, as a test team, we can often be underrated, especially overseas. And I think that one Melbourne Test was not just a random victory. It represents Indian cricket in this modern era. Right? It's all very well to say T20 game, flamboyance, have some really great guys coming out who hit the ball for 6. But in the purest format of the game, I can tell you, in any other era, again, this is with all due respect to all the greats who have played, in any other era, had India been 36 all out, they would have been steamrolled for the rest of the series.
Yeah, that's why Ravi Shastri also described it as one of the best comebacks, right?
And it really was. It was not just a typical Shastri quote. It was not. It really was, because you feel it. How many things could possibly go wrong for you? You've got 36 all out. Your icon Virat Kohli is leaving for India, justifiably so. You've got a new captain. Therefore, you're short one batsman as well. Yeah. You're going to the MCG, a difficult place to play. Australia are buoyant. And you've lost the toss. How many more things do you want going wrong for you? And you come out of that, not only having succeeded, but outplaying Australia completely. So I think that is enough of a representation that you're the best test side in the world.
I agree with you. I mean, the way we did make the comeback happen, truly commendable. So coming to the question which you skipped, Gautam. Yeah. So are you ready? One cricket.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not a cricket fact, but it's in fact about me. A few years ago, on one of my non-cricketing journeys to the Commonwealth Games, just before the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast. I'd gone there through Tourism Australia to do a little documentary. It was great fun. All of us media people actually took part in 10 of the disciplines. Yeah. And while doing that, one of the disciplines was lawn bowls, right? Okay. Which when I first watched it, I thought it's the world's most boring sport and only meant for people above the age of 80. Yeah. So if basically you just take this ball and in slow motion you roll it, and the ball rolls in slow motion and comes close to this other cluster of balls,
Oh wow.
And the closer you get to it, the better it is. But it's an international sport, and it's a Commonwealth Games sport. So
what is it
I
called
tried
again?
it.
Sorry, what is it called again?
Bowls, lawn bowls.
Okay.
So have a look. Just Google it, and you'll find lots of. You might have to spool forward because it takes forever for it to happen. But it looks really nice. It's very fascinating and interesting. It involves a lot of accuracy. So while I obviously did my share of playing baddie and TT and all the stuff that I know, ran a little bit, did all that. When it came to lawn bowls, we had a former gold medalist from the sport in each of these disciplines who were coming to sort of oversee us. So I was literally taking part against the reigning gold medalist from Glasgow in 2014. And I beat him.
Whoa.
It was just a trial event, but still, he came up to me and said, "Mate, there is no way you're an amateur." I said, "I've never tried this thing in my life."
Wow.
And two other people actually came to me and said, "Listen, in your part of the world, I don't think it's very big. India actually sending a lawn bowls team to the Commonwealth Games in 2 years' time to Gold Coast.
India
you should go back."
India
there is.
Oh.
Yeah. I think there are a total of 4 people in India who play it. 3 out of 4 go to a Commonwealth Games. They have a lawn federation. It's probably the uncle, nephew. It's a very incestuous club, right?
Yeah.
So these people told me that, listen, we know the origin of where the Indian team comes from, and in parts of the world where it's not so big, it's a bit like playing cricket for Thailand. If you have any sort of talent, why don't you go and put your hand up and see? And so because I had so much else on my plate, I didn't do it. But one day I'm determined to give it another try and see if I can take lawn bowls to the highest level.
That's interesting. This is the second different or unknown sport I've heard about in 2 days. Yesterday I read somewhere throwing mobile phones. When you throw mobile phones, right? Thrashing and throwing of mobile phones is an official sport in Finland. So they see how far could you throw your mobile. And considering I've broken many phones and many screens, maybe I'll be good at it. So that
is bizarre. It's a fact I've learned right now. I mean, I can imagine maybe Nokia has 1 million handsets that they need to get rid of, and they're finding a way to do it. But that could be the only explanation.
Absolutely. So anyways, Gautam, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And you were very kind, and you were very honest throughout the interview.
Cool. Pleasure. Total pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope I did justice, and I hope you were comfortable.
Absolutely. It was great fun.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Awesome.